Hello everyone, my name is Tan Zhen Dong, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation. We're going to dive into a review of the global climate change impacts, mitigation, and sustainable adaptation measures.
According to the IPCC report, climate change will increase the number of severe weather events throughout various parts of the world. Since the Industrial Revolution, especially starting in the mid-20th century, human actions have increased the atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases. Hence, climate change is one of the greatest ecological and social challenges of the 21st century. First, let's talk about the cause of climate change. Natural causes such as volcanic eruption and Earth's Milankovitch cycles have influenced the Earth's climate throughout its history. These events can be attributed as natural phenomena. Next, for man-made causes, human activities such as burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial activities are the primary driver of climate change in current situation. Next, effects of climate changes. There are several types of effect which could impact the ecosystem. There are several effective environmental impacts such as melting of ice or glacier which causing rises of water level, more frequent and severe weather events which have significantly impacts on agriculture, water resources, and ecosystems, and impacts on biodiversity which altering habitats and leading to the loss of suitable environments for many species as well. In economic impacts, crop yields and livestock's productivity were reduced due to changes in rainfall patterns caused by climate change. Increased healthcare costs globally, which is associated with an increase in heat-related illnesses and deaths. And rebuilding infrastructure, which causing hundreds of billions of dollars in losses each year due to extreme climate events and disasters. Next, climate change has caused social impacts such as migration, which forcing people to leave their homes in search of safer places. Climate change has affected food security effects by altering crop yields and water availability. Poor countries are severely affected by it. Lastly, climate change can also affect mental health and well-being through exposure to climate-related stressors and changes. In conclusion, the effects of climate change are complex and which create feedback loops that amplify the effect that mixing several types of impacts. Hence, taking proactive steps is possible to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change and build a more sustainable future. Hence, several parties and nations were invoked to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. There are mitigation strategies from international level to local level. The international efforts. The Paris Agreement is an international treaty on climate change adopted by 196 parties at the 21st Conference of Parties of the UNFCCC. The agreement requires all countries to put forward their best efforts through nationally determined contributions and to strengthen these efforts in the years ahead. Its goal is to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Besides that, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is an international treaty aimed at combating dangerous human-induced climate change. The UNFCCC sets out a framework for action aimed at stabilizing greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. The local efforts. Malaysia has been taking various steps to address climate change. The National Policy on Climate Change is Malaysia's overarching framework for addressing climate. It promotes the implementation of both adaptation and mitigation measures in an integrated and balanced manner. Malaysia has established a national forestry policy and a national forestry action plan to guide its forest management and conservation efforts. The Sustainable Energy Development Authority (SEDA) Malaysia is a statutory body established under the Sustainable Energy Development Authority Act with the primary role of administering and managing the implementation of the feed-in tariff, administering the FIT mechanism to promote the development of renewable energy project to reduce energy consumption. Lastly, the Heart of Borneo Initiative is a transboundary conservation program involving Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei, aiming to conserve one of the world's most biodiverse rainforests. Technological innovations. Renewable energy plays a crucial role in addressing climate change. Advances in solar photovoltaic PV technology has seen a dramatic cost reduction. Further substantial cost reductions are predicted in the coming decade by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and providing a sustainable energy supply. Electric vehicles (EVs) play a significant role in the fight against climate change. EVs are generally more energy efficient than ICE vehicles and potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions compared to ICE vehicles. The development of EVs can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and play a crucial role in the transition to a low-carbon economy. Carbon capture, utilization, and storage (CCUS) is a crucial technology for mitigating climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions and transitioning to a low-carbon economy. Technological innovations are essential for addressing the multifaceted challenges of climate change. Next, here are several case studies of how different parts of the world are adapting to climate change. SIDS are a group of developing countries which exposure to global environmental challenges. These countries are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including rising sea levels and extreme weather event. The Maldives has developed a plan includes measures to combat sea level rise, such as building a wall around the capital Mal and refurnishing local infrastructure. The country also implementing a large-scale land reclamation project in Hulhumal to prepare for relocation from other parts of the country. Next, Sub-Saharan Africa is highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change due to its reliance on climate-sensitive sectors such as agriculture. The widespread concern about food insecurity inspired the development of drought-tolerant maize in Africa, which appear to be better endowed, cultivate more maize, and have higher input use and yields. To adapt climate change, African countries are working to develop more resilient agricultural practices, such as drought-resistant crops and better water management. Southeast Asia is one of the world's regions most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. For example, Malaysia is experiencing significant climate change, including changes in precipitation patterns and an increase in extreme weather events. Hence, the government has announced plans to formulate a national adaptation plan to address the impacts of climate change. This plan will focus on 5 priority areas listed above. Besides that, Malaysia is adopting both structural and non-structural measures for flood mitigation and adaptation. This includes nature-based solutions, short-term strategies for preparedness, and long-term strategies for early warning and forecasting, which for prepare to minimize the impact of climate change and predict natural disaster by providing ample time for mitigation and response. In conclusion, human activities are the primary driver of climate change in current situation. The impacts of climate change are diverse and widespread, affecting different regions and sectors in various ways on the environment, society, and the economy.